Hi to all from Fabrice, and we are again here to explain this new lesson about computer security tutorial lesson 1, public key and private key encryption algorithms. And I have write this article for nerdsolution.net. This is the address. This is the title of my language that it is Italian. You can easily translate on your language with the plugins on the right that it is Google Translator. You select your language. On this case, I chose English, and so you can go on. Now we talk to explain this introduction lesson that where I explain the what is the public and private key encryption algorithms. We will now talk to this tutorial about encryption techniques, private and public key, and in general the security algorithm to implement encrypted transmission or encrypting. To do all this, we start from very far away, to make you addicted to the fact that the method to encrypt and hide a message. Then obviously with the time of the technology have changed, and with them the device on which the messages are transmitted and their complexity have also changed. So let's do the same history. I don't know if you surprised, but it surprised you, but even in the ancient Rome, ciphers were used. Certainly, one of the best known was the Julius Caesar used in the campaign of Gaul, where the Roman general used an encryption technique that today we will call a symmetric key, which consisted in the translating a certain character forward or backward. I'll give you an example. If the translation key was free and the root A was translated into the word D, the obviously other tricks were also used, but this was the main one. In the modern time, we could have called such a system a symmetric key algorithm. Wait, oh my god, wait a moment, I have mistake something. Okay, this is an example of a machine Enigma machine. Always before the advent of the PC, there was an Enigma machine. Let's say it was the best known and the best known. But along the line were several in the Second World War. Obviously, every year the main purpose was only one, namely that an encryption or hiding the content of a clear message. Without going into specific, the Enigma machine had three rotors in relation to the letters of the alphabet. When a letter was typed, it passed between the three rotors, which then carried out three scrolls of the letter typed in another letters. These up the three rotors. Every 26 characters each rotors made a click, and therefore the letter performed a different scroll compared to the native two. Also, the initial setting, what today could be called the initialing vectoring, a modem encryption algorithm, it was set a regular interval according to a pattern that all U-boat commander possessed. In other words, the system of which I have given you a very brief description came mainly to communicate with a submarine in the open sea. The mechanism worked perfectly until the British during World War managed to capture a submarine with an intact Enigma machine, thus being able to understand the mechanism. Later, the Germans increased Oh my God, again. Communicate in a moment. The mechanism worked perfectly. Okay. Later, the Germans increased the numbers of rotors and took other precautions. But obviously the mechanism was revealed, and it was easier for the English scientists to take the precaution inherent to the change introduced Alan Turing, inventor of the finite-state Turing car of the same name. What does encryption of message mean? So let's try to give a definition of a verb and if it and telecommunication field. The word cryptography derives from ancient Greek and, to be precise, from the union of the word cryptos hidden and graphia writing. Therefore, by extension, encrypting or encoding a clear message or signal indicates a technique used to make it incomprehensible to those who do not have the appropriate key necessary for decoding. Now we will see better later on specifying what are the private and public key of cryptography in the computer sector and their use. For the moment, we are content with this summary definition. What are interested in now to conclude this introductory lesson are some definitions. To better understand and familiarize yourself with what we will see to the next tutorial lesson. Encoding is a technique that performs data into other data but with different forms, and to do this it uses a clear scheme that allows to derive the original value. To obtain the starting data is only necessary to know the algorithm that was used to perform the operation. That is, no key is needed even if we have not introduced the terms at the moment. Examples of this technique are the URL encoding, JSON encoding, base64, ASCII Unicode algorithms. If you want to test, go to this address and you can do a practical test. Specifically, it also talks about the coding algorithm in case you want more explanation about it. Encrypting. The substantial difference with respect to the previous coding system lies in the fact that only the recipient of the message can encode it, while before it could be encoded by all those who had that particular code decoding algorithm. We are therefore introducing the concept of a public key with which to encode the code and private key with which to encode the code in the possession of the recipient only. The message to be encrypted takes the name of plain text, while the message that has been generated by the algorithm takes the name of ciphertext. And generally on mathematics they are indicated with the capital letter P and C, but we will return to them in the next lesson. Wait on a moment. This is the picture with the image of the key symmetric encryption, where we have the plain text data, the key, the cipher data, with the encrypted again with the key, and the decrypted plain text data. And now that algorithm of this type Also, this, we will see later, can be symmetric or asymmetric, as you can see on the picture. The most common algorithms of this type used today are AES, DES, 3DES, even if removing the first they offer are now obsolete. That is they can easily decrypted and therefore cricket, yeah. Hashing. It is the main used to guarantee the integrity of the data. EA hashing prevents any change made to the original data that have now not been made by the person who sent it can be easily identified. It takes an arbitrary input and returns a fixed length string with the following characteristic. The same input produces identical output. Different inputs do not produce the same output. The symmetric and bijective property hold, and input can only come from an output, as you can see on this image. The mechanism called hashing is used authentication mechanism in order to provide concrete evidence that the message has not been modified, and moreover that it was sent by the correct person, that it is called digital signature. The mechanism of use wait a moment, I try to expand so you can see better. With this example, hash digital signature. Document function of hash digital signature, algorithm with digital private key, digital key. This is the scheme. The mechanism of use is a follower a message is taken and encrypted by subsequential signed with the sender private key. The recipient opens the message, validates the hash signature using the sender public key, then hashes the string himself to compare it the one signed by the sender. If a match is found, it means that the message is the same one that was invited by the sender and has not undergone any changes, as well as obviously being sent by the correct person. For this first lesson, introduction to the cybersecurity is all. See you to the next lesson. Bye from Fabrizio.